I think most of planet Earth can relate to me when I say that 2020 has sucked. Having said that, I've tried to make it suck a little bit less. So stay tuned for that goodness. I'm sort of practiced with this. It feels weird. This just feels weird. It just feels weird to try to like do this, like talk to yourself in front of a camera. It feels weird still. I don't think I'll ever get used to it. So throwing it back to January, February time, I was a bit concerned looking at what was going on in China and like how there was this new crazy disease and it was spreading fast, and Italy kind of caught on fire. That was kind of the first place in Europe that everyone was like, whoa, that can't happen to us, we'll be prepared. And I did anticipate it getting bad, but didn't quite anticipate how bad it would get and how fast it would get bad. I had a week, like many musicians I'm sure, where literally everything got cancelled in 1 week, like for the whole year, including an upcoming Brazil trip to see friends and some new projects and residencies and all sorts of stuff. I have, however, tried to make the best of it as a freelance musician who isn't eligible for the UK's government support stuff, for a few reasons. Just the annoying timing of me becoming freelance and going full time. It's been a long journey and I'm not eligible. Anyway, I was lucky enough to get some support from Creative Scotland. As soon as there was kind of a hint of some kind of lockdown happening here, I immediately just started live streaming on Facebook. There are like 55 live streams on Facebook from me, which are all video lessons, which has been a real learning curve to get used to. But I've learned a lot and they're really great until they weren't. Like the first post that when I announced that I was doing the live streams blew up way more than I anticipated it blowing up. In the first like 3 lessons I've got over 1,000 views, which is double my Facebook following. And actually my Facebook following went up like over 160 likes in 1 week, which is still insane to me now. Still insane to me. I mean, I was on a high doing those first few lessons, but then that kind of set the expectation of they would always do well, or they'd do pretty well, or at least half as well. But quite quickly, it kind of turned into like, as soon as the novelty wore off of the stuff on Facebook, it was like less than 10 people viewing per thing, and it was just like, oh, then it got even smaller and smaller and smaller. Sometimes I'd be lucky if 1 person tuned in live for a little bit, but it's fine, that's just the way these things have ended up. Still grateful for it, and still super grateful for the people who donated. So I had a donation link up on all these Facebook live lessons, and honestly, if people didn't donate, I don't know what I'd be doing right now, honestly. So again, a massive thank you to those wonderful people. However, I will come back with live streams. I just need a bit of time to process all of what's happened and what I've learned, and spend a bit more time studying to get more lesson inspiration. But that will come, I'm sure. However, one thing that I planned this year that didn't quite come to fruition is more of my own independent classes and workshops, as most of my stuff as a musician so far has been on behalf of other people, which is fine, and it's been great, and I've learned so much from doing that. And the Facebook Lives kind of count. It's not necessarily the way that I'd want to deliver classes, but it's better than nothing, I guess. But this new project is closer to that. So I'm announcing, although I shouldn't announce anything because then I have to stick to it and things change. So I'm super excited to share with you the Percussion and Songs of Brazil course, which is a 13-week live course. It's going to be delivered on Zoom, and the focus is kind of less about the drumming itself and more about the culture, history, and general context of the music. Each week is focused on a different style and looking quite deep into the origins of the style, as well as looking at reference material and analysing it, and then also learning a bit of music stuff. The music stuff will be a combination of kind of general rhythms that you can apply to multiple instruments, so it's You don't need to have an instrument at home to learn this stuff. Additionally, there'll be some song stuff, so you can learn how to sing and pronounce things in Portuguese, which is always really, really useful for when travel is allowed again and we can all go to Brazil. I always try to give some kind of cultural information in my workshops when they're in person, because I feel like it often adds so much more to the music you're playing if you kind of understand how it came to be. Also, I feel like a fair amount of, like, especially taster workshops, miss out a lot of the kind of important stuff. It'll be like, oh, it's from Brazil, it's samba drumming, but then you might learn something that isn't exactly samba as you kind of know it. You might go, oh, we're doing samba drumming, but we're going to teach some EJ Shah, without explaining where EJ Shah comes from, that kind of thing. And I try to do a bit more than that. I try to give as much cultural information as I can without boring people in my classes. Another thing that's been really useful about making this course, and one reason for it, is people have been asking me, especially in the last year, Jordan, what do you specialise in? Which is really hard to answer because I don't feel I specialise in one particular style. Usually people outside of the Brazilian music scene, I will answer Brazilian music and Brazilian percussion. However, people in that scene, it's a little bit more difficult because some people specialise in, you know, the sound of one group who have their own particular style in a genre. And that just isn't me. I'll sit and binge a style for a couple of months and go as deep as I can and research as much as I can, consume as much of it as possible. Then I'll get bored and move on to another one and then come back to that same style a couple of months later. So it's really cyclical the way I learn. I'll binge for a while, give up, move on to something else, binge that, give up, binge another thing, then maybe go back to that first thing. So this has been really useful, just collating all of my knowledge and trying to put it all into a course. Although that's not saying that this course will teach you everything I've studied for the last 11 years, absolutely not. It's aimed to give you a good start in understanding the culture rather than giving you everything, because I don't know everything, I'm still learning. Although I've been studying for 11 years, I feel like I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours to go in studying and spending more and more time getting lessons and seeing things. You know, that's the beauty of this stuff, is it's always learning, always, always, always. I don't see there ever being a point where I'll say, oh yeah, I definitely specialize in this one thing, because I'll get bored of it and move on to something else and then come back to it a few months later. It's just kind of my weird habit. For me as a percussionist, learning about the culture of the music that I'm playing is not only a responsibility, because it's not my culture, but also it just adds so much to my playing. I feel like understanding that stuff that goes on behind the scenes makes you a better player. And I'm not the only one that thinks that, so thankfully there's some support for that. The course itself is split into 3 blocks based on general geographical areas. We've got Bahia, Pernambuco, and Rio and Sao Paulo. I've put those 2 together because there's a lot of crossover between the 2 cities. Also, I love them both. The course starts on the 23rd of September. It's a Wednesday, it'll be at 7 p.m. UK time. All the tickets and all the other information is in the description of this video, or if you're watching this from my website, all below. So yeah, I hope you stay happy and healthy and you keep drumming, because that's super important. And yeah, I shall see you very soon.